All right, everyone. It is 6:07 p.m. and I am calling the meeting to order. Calling the meeting to order. And it is being recorded and it will be posted on the PCPB YouTube channel and our website. So please be advised of that. Thank you for all attending. We do have quorum. We have quite a bit of items to get through to today. So the first item I'd like to have reviewed are the meeting minutes from last month's meeting. I know that Margaret, Tina, and Paul, Matt, were you in the traffic meeting last month? You were, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, you are, right, yeah. So I put you down as abstaining because you were not in attendance. But I'd like to see if there's a motion out there to approve the minutes. I'll go ahead and put a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Margaret can second.
All right, and then all in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay. TJ, yes. Matt, yes. All right. All right, we've got that taken care of. At this time, is there any agenda amendments or any issues with the agenda? Oh, and I see Nicole is here. Let's go ahead and add Nicole.
I would like to propose that we swap informational items A and B. Just that, A is kind of open-ended. And B is more of a concrete item. So we should, make sure we get through B and then we can see where we are for time before we tackle A, because this is our kind of perpetual, thing.
Yeah. And then see, so swap the info items. All right, just remind me if we do that. So Matt, you made that motion to modify the agenda. I'll second that. All in favor? Raise your hand or. Thank you. Nicole, was that a yes? I can't quite see.
Yes, that's yes for me. I don't know why my video didn't come on. Maybe because it's dark out here.
Okay, I can kind of see there.
Sorry, I'm late. I'm actually just trying to get home.
No worries.
I'm on my way.
Okay, one, two, three, four, five, six. All right. Okay. All right, if I forget that. And then are there any non-agenda public comments that you would like to make at this time?
Yes.
Go ahead, Margaret.
Ride the Point event is this Saturday, 7 to 2 p.m. Start time, I believe, is at 7 p.m. And there's no road closures in Point Loma. However, traffic will be slightly heavy, I'm assuming, and predicting from 7 to 10. That's when the cyclists kind of get on the road headed from Liberty Station to La Playa area, entering the naval base from that section. So just a heads up that there will be some traffic in those hours with no potential roadblocks or anything like that. They're just cycling as normal. And then there's a tent expo to support the cyclists and the cause. They're fundraising for pancreatic cancer research. And that is Saturday, 7 to 2, down in Liberty Station, OG's Pizza parking lot. There'll be a tent expo, raffles, music, just a good old fashioned time for the community. So there are still spots left for solo cyclists, and I think also on the family route with kids. Just visit www.ridethepoint.org for more info. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you for that announcement. That's a really big event that's hosted by the Rotary Club. And I know that there has been a call for volunteers. So I don't know, is there a need for any more volunteers, Margaret?
Absolutely, big time. And what's really cool is if for you cyclists and everything, there's gonna be a bunch of cool booths with a bunch of just vendors. And so we need volunteers at the rest stops. to kind of fuel up our cyclists, serving, you know, the water and snacks. And then also at registration, I think needed a few hands. So, you know, more the merrier. Kids are welcome to help out too. It's just a big old family fun event in our community. And majority of clubs in Point Loma have partnered up to help us, PLA, a few others. And it's going to be nice to get out there, enjoy some sun and support some riders for a great cause. So if you're interested in volunteering, let me know and I'll put you in the hands of the right person.
Can you donate a lot of money to him?
Yes, Christopher, stop. All right, thank you for that. Sorry for the interruption. I've got my 8-year-old here who needs attention. All right, thank you, Margaret, for that. Any other non-agenda public comment? All right. So with that, let's go to the agenda, and we have our first order of business. You know, actually, do you think with Dan Finn being here, do you think we should just switch that as well? Maybe to address that, Dan. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to modify the agenda as well, in addition to Matt's, to modify the action item A and B. And so we'll do action item A with regards to Froud first. All right. What?
I can second that for you.
Thank you. And then all in favor of that modification?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Thank you, Dan, for being here. I'm going to share the screen with a few items. You know, we're all on the traffic and transportation. I'm just going to give real high level what the history is. And so Dan is the neighbor located at Cape May and Froud. And he is concerned about the issues with traffic, speeding, people not abiding by the, you know, stopping at stop signs. We've identified that the stretch of Froud in between Voltaire and Newport, the 0.44 mile stretch, has no stop signs at all. And due to his location at Cape May and Froud, we made the recommendation to install a 4-way stop at Cape May and Froud, because the neighbors had originally made the request with the city, and due to it not qualifying for a stop sign installation based on city council policy, the only way that we can override that type of request is if our council member advocates and overrides that. And so we did approve a letter back in February that requested those traffic safety mitigations. And I have reached out to Monique Tello via email as well as via phone, and I have not yet received confirmation that our council member will be advocating for that. There has been some new information that has become available as well since we last met about this. And so the new information being that the city has also denied, being that Froud is a shared intersection between OB Planning Board and the Peninsula Community Planning Board, there were other requests made by the Ocean Beach Planning Board. They had made requests for stop signs at the Saratoga and Froud location, and they were informed by the city that that request had been denied as well. And so since we last with that letter, there was about 5 or 6 affidavits attached to that letter with from the neighbors identifying their experience with that. And since then, I've received about 8 more emails with different mirroring the same experience that was originally in the original affidavit, but it is mirroring the experience all along Froud. And so when we reached out to the city, a few weeks ago in Park Point Loma, I noticed that there were some leads out in front of the entrance. And they were doing a traffic count. So when I reached out to Gary and Tom and I said, oh, who ordered the traffic count and why are you counting the traffic? He said that you can, a neighbor had requested road humps or speed humps. And so I was a little confused because in previous conversations that we've had in the subcommittee is that the city is not wanting to install speed humps of any kind because they interfere with the efficiency of getting emergency vehicles to and from the areas that they need to be. And that was the issue. But I found out, and Dan being with his profession, is that the city has identified streets that actually qualify for speed humps, and we can make that request as an appropriate mitigation. And I'm going to start sharing my screen just to share with everyone this road hump evaluation form. And I did provide it to Dan, and he's completed the form as well. And so another opportunity that I thought would be helpful is, if you're familiar with Froud, the thought is if the city's not wanting to do stop signs, the thought is to encourage, because it's a bicycle, there's a lot of people walking in that community, is that at each intersection along that Froud, we could do bulb outs of the corner curb at these intersections, so that when a pedestrian is trying to get out across the street, one, that bulb out would kind of create a calming mitigation because it narrows the street, but also that bulb out would put the pedestrian out and be more visible in that intersection. And so I'm thinking that maybe not speed humps, but that's a possible opportunity we could use as a tool. But I'm thinking maybe the bulb out or the curbs, coming out at each of those intersections or a few of the intersections along the way to, promote the visibility of pedestrians that are at those intersections and trying to walk across the street. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for board discussion or for discussion. So if you want to just raise your hand and we can go from there. Paul? Oh, hi, Dan.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to raise my hand, but I can. Oh, I see.
Oh, that's all right. No, Dan, you're our guest. Go ahead and speak. And
okay, I was just curious because I know that with the initial letters that were done from OB and Point Loma to the council member, I don't know if they were waiting for a reply from the city first before they got involved, because I know according to that process, the 200 track, the policy for the stop signs, that after the city gets involved, then the council members have the power to request it. So I don't know if they were just waiting for the city's involvement to see where that went before they even took action or even reviewed it. And so I don't know if they're, from your letter, were they made aware that it was rejected and that it's kind of like in their hands at this point? And have they come back saying, no, we don't want it? Or have they come back with any answer?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get out of Monique and our council member. So the email that she sent us on the 14th basically was like, hey, they denied it and this is why. And then she included the city council policy for us to reference. And I'd like to share this with all of you. I'll be emailing this after, because I don't know if you see on the screen, they have a list of all the points and how they evaluate and apply points for those type of requests. So it's good information for us to have. So I guess my question to you, Dan, is what do you think? Let's just continue the conversation. Is there any real mitigation other than stop signs or any other requests that the community would like to see from the city other than stop signs, or are they adamant on the stop sign?
Well, I think that stop signs would be just the best way to slow the traffic. But up on Venice, there are in that same amount of stretch 5 speed humps, and I think they do a great job too. They obviously had the same issue as us at some point where there was no stop signs in that stretch, because I grew up, you know, in the 80s. I don't remember speed humps being up there until a certain point. So there's obviously an issue that happened on Venice where people spoke up enough saying, hey, this isn't right. Let's get something to slow it down up top there. And like that map I showed you, I mean, everyone has at least 2 stop signs in the same stretch from Abbott all the way up to the top of the hill. So it just seems like an engineering error or something on Froude Street where they decided that it didn't need it or just overlooked. So if Venice had that same issue and they put in the 5 speed humps, from my experience taking Venice, it does help a lot having those speed humps. You're forced to slow down. And on the Froude, that's not the issue. I mean, we're counting on the natural dips on that street where people lose control. And I've showed you the pictures of people of the crashes.
Mhm.
You know, one car got completely underneath the other car where the speed is reckless. And I think that's just the engineering aspect of it. They have the ability to catch that speed where you don't have that in that, like, I don't know. I've tried to think of any other street, Santa Barbara, Point Loma Avenue, and nothing has this same, you know, Catalina has that long stretch and more of a straight, not a hill. And, you know, I can't think of a stretch like Froude that's around. I keep on looking now that I've been thinking about it. So speed bumps, I think, would be a second, but also they would be a good mitigation thing. So I don't know if the council members are not on board with any stop signs, and that would be definitely a good second avenue.
Okay. And would you want the placement, you know, with Froude, you know, not to, you know, the dips in between each of the streets, it kind of creates this, you know, it kind of goes, there are these large speed bumps. Are you saying like you'd want them on Cape May as they descend down, or you want them all along Froude?
Well, I would say, like, such as Venice, like they're spread out between 3 blocks on Venice, and they're doubled up. I think they have them
Okay.
maybe too close to each other within a distance of 3 blocks. And I think that does a great job. I don't know, yeah, the actual you can spread them out for sure, but yeah, the natural dip that's in Froude, I mean, it makes people bottom out and stuff, but it really doesn't, especially people who are not familiar with that happening, or, you know, they're just going off their whatever Waze or whatever app you're using tells them the fastest way to get somewhere. They're not paying attention to that. So.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I've stopped the screen sharing. Nicole. Oh, yes. And Paul, I didn't forget about you. Paul will be next. Thank you.
Thanks, Mandy, and thanks, Dan, for being here. And just a couple comments on that. Was a great example. Venice is a great example for speed humps. I'm good with speed humps. I think it's a great way to slow traffic down. Another example is Central Loma, and we used to ride the bike train there to Dana Middle every year, and we slowed the traffic down, and as soon as we disappeared, the traffic continued to increase and they got speed humps. So very feasible, very possible, probably the lowest cost. Stop signs, I feel like, you know, as I watch car drivers, it's like a hit and ready, set, go, right? Like, you know, fast to the stop sign and then quickly brake. And it's just, you know, it's not the best. Curb extensions, like you mentioned, Mandy, are great. They're just expensive infrastructure. And then I'm just going to throw out one last one, and it's just paint alone. It is not in the bicycle master plan, so we'd have to recommend it as a bicycle route, which is not necessarily the ideal bicycle route because it's got 2 hills compared to Gazeau and Ebers. However, Ebers will never become a bike boulevard. So it has a possibility. And with that, you could ask for advisory lanes, and that creates 2 bike lanes on each side. Makes drivers really navigate the road a little more when you have oncoming traffic. It makes the lane calmer and is an opportunity. So I think for me, I don't know if I have the best answer or I want to ask for the best answer. I think it's more like we need to do something, and it has to be traffic calming, and please do it now. Please come up and city, what would you like to do, right? Unless we like the bike lane idea, then that's something we would want to advocate for. So those are just my comments. Thank you.
And my question, Nicole, about that bike lane, would that be like in the form of a sharrow, or would that be a designated bike lane that you'd like to have?
They're actually a new innovative treatment, and they're separated. They're actually physically bike lanes. They can have parking on the sides. They have, if you go to bikesd.org, you can see a little write-up on advisory lanes and see what the criteria is. It's low ADT, average daily trips of vehicles, and then the street has to have a minimum width between 9 feet and 16 feet is what is between the two bike lanes on each side. So so the bikes actually have a safe facility to ride, and then the car drivers almost have to navigate. So some car drivers don't really like Wabaska because people have to like actually pay attention now and drive with caution and oncoming traffic. So that's what we want. We want people to be more and then walkers would be able to kind of look into the bike lane and get out into the bike lane and feel a little more comfort before they crossed. Just an idea, suggestion. As an alternative.
I have one question. Would that impact parking for the community members at
No.
all? No impact to parking. Okay.
No impact to parking.
And
If
then,
it is, I don't know the exact measurements of that street and if advisory lanes would work there, but according to city staff, advisory lanes can work with parking, so there is no impact to them. And yeah.
And I think that it would qualify, just because if you, in the community, Froude is a very wide street, compared to the other like Ebers and stuff. It just seems it's very wide. And so, maybe the bike lanes would create that calming effect that's needed
Right.
to, reduce the lanes and stuff. So that's a possible idea.
And that one's
then-
just paint. So like, I think of that as that's paint. And then the curb humps are like some asphalt, and then stop signs. They're all low cost. When you get into curb bulb outs and mini traffic circles, then you're asking for costly infrastructure. And
Okay, so the installation of bike lanes to narrow the road with no impact to parking, and the installation of speed humps or road humps would be more cost effective than requesting like a curb cutout.
curb bulb outs.
A curb bulb
and
out,
many,
okay.
like as you mentioned, and many roundabouts. And just FYI, I just put it in there as advisory lanes. They're not necessarily, they have a different term that the city is using. So.
Okay. Okay, and then go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I got a few things. First of all, I don't know if it's considered a bike lane, but Ebers does have sharrows. I'm just writing a couple things down. As far as the width of Froude, I'm looking at Google Earth and I'm seeing that it's a 36-foot street south of Brighton, and it's a 40-foot street for the remainder. So it is a little wider than some. My concern is that I think they need to go out and do like a speed test or an ADT test on that street, because Froude's definitely being used as a bypass to Ebers and even Sunset Cliffs Boulevard. And they're not using Gazelle because it has so many stop signs. I'd like to know if the city could go back and see if Gazelle's stop signs are stop signs that should be installed, because that's what we're getting to here. They have 6 blocks or something with no stop sign, and they don't want to put one in because all of them fail. Well, as a group, they shouldn't fail based on what's going on the adjacent street, the bypass that is being used, and the street up the hill has got like a bunch of stop signs, and probably none of those qualify either, but they're there. So I don't know why they were put there, but I don't want to. Personally, I think that they should figure out where to put stop signs on that street. It's too long of a distance in between, and sure, all the other stuff can work, but stop signs I think are the real answer, and I don't know why they will not agree with the situation based on what it is.
Yeah.
Venice is a 40-foot street, by the way, and I guess that's my only comments at this point.
I appreciate that, Paul. What was the one street that you said was 36 feet? Was that Brighton, you said?
Froude is 36th Street at 36 wide up till Brighton, coming up from the south. and then it goes to a 40-foot street using a calculation there. So there's a
Okay,
narrow street there, as far as I can tell, using Google Earth's measuring tools.
okay.
It's 40, it's a little wider. I really doubt that under either of those streets that you'd be able to have 2 full traffic lanes, 2 full parking lanes, and some kind of bike lanes that were there. I don't know what that would look like, but I don't think there's room for that.
You don't think that there's room for bike lanes?
Well, I mean, the cars take up like, I think about 8 feet. So that's 2 times 8, 16. The transit lane, the car lanes are at least 10 feet. So that's 20. That's basically 32 to 32 street feet minimum for
Paul's, sorry to
driving car and parked car.
Okay.
sorry to jump in here. Paul's right, but just to quickly clarify, that's why I think Nicole was suggesting advisory lanes as opposed to full bike lanes. And Paul, if you're not familiar with these, I put a couple links in the chat that show some examples of what advisory lanes look like. And that I believe there would be room for.
Okay. And then my understanding, you were wanting an evaluation. I'm going to assume, we can add that, like request a traffic evaluation or study of that street to determine if it's eligible to install road humps. I believe that's part of the process already, but yes, I'd like to add that to the verbiage. Dan, is your hand still up or did you have more to add?
Oh yeah,
Robert.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Dan.
No, go ahead, Dan.
Oh, I was just saying adding bikes to the mix without some type of slowing thing seems a little bit, maybe that could be adding danger to it a little bit. And I'm sure the bikes would have people more aware during those hours that people are biking, but between, those other times, I don't think it would make much of a change. I would be worried about, again, adding something that could potentially make it dangerous for bikers and that's a street. That's the problem, is it's the speed danger. So I don't know if that adds to the danger of trying to bike that street at this point too, without any kind of slowing thing where people are trying to having to slow down at some point during that stretch. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you.
All right, what I was going to say is, when I did the speed bumps on Albion Street, the first thing you really have to do is walk around the petition for that immediate area and get the support. And that takes time.
I have several emails that were, received since then. Dan, I think we have about a dozen now experiences, and they stretch all along Froud. And being that the neighbors have, put their name, to it. What are your thoughts on outreach? I do feel like this, but do you think it's overkill, or do we have to go knock on everyone's door and ask their thoughts?
I pretty much walked the neighborhood, and I ran into a lot of neighbors who have said they've tried the city process, tried the same process I did, where you ask for it online. And then I even went on to the neighborhood app from the city, the Get It Done app, and there's one pending right now about stop signs on that street. And I don't know who that was. Those are just, it doesn't say who submitted that for the requesting a stop sign on Froud, and I think it was Brighton or somewhere around there. And I tried my best, going door to door, and everyone's always has the same complaints. And some people sent me pictures, and some people, everyone said that they were going to write emails and do all this stuff, but getting actual people to take action is a little different than what them just saying that they're upset about it. I think that some people are jaded about the process, which I'm almost at that point where this is my 9th meeting or 10th meeting, I forget, where it seems like they've been turned down several times before too in the past, and they just get jaded and say nothing's going to change. But I've been told the same thing, like good luck with that kind of thing, kind of like a laugh, because they've been through a similar process at some point. So I think that burnout's the only thing that's against me at this point, where there's people who are passionate about that, but they're not passionate about making the effort again. So I don't know if I can get more than the 12 I got at this point. I can keep this. I put some signs up on some light posts, and maybe in the future I can try doing that again, get some people who didn't see it the first time around, but I really don't know what else to do.
You know, I you know, and I would normally be all about, you know, like, let's reach out to the, you know, the community and see what they want, but we have the community already providing us with written statements of the experience. And Dan's right. He's been advocating for his community in between the two planning boards and been at several meetings. And he's trying to make a difference and get some relief in some form from the city, and they're not responding. So Robert, I do appreciate that. I'd like to ask that we make a request today and not delay that portion of it, just because in the letter I will include every testimony, and it's pages that we have pictures. I've got pictures of a parked car that's been that was smashed in from behind, and the impact was so intense that the car was a hood ornament on the parked car, became a hood ornament to the vehicle that struck it from behind. And I drive that every day. I take my kids go to Ocean Beach Elementary. I drive to and from, and Nicole's right. Ebers is not very safe for cyclists. And, you know, bike lanes, if they narrow out an advisory lane, if it would narrow that road, it would create that calming effect. I don't want our cyclists to be sacrificial, you know, lambs there, but, you know, it would create a calming effect. And then make the request for the speed humps, you know, for the community.
But I think too, you know, without a whole lot of effort, somebody can just sign their name, being supportive of whatever measure, if it's road humps or advocating for stop signs. But I think if you get the numbers, that will speak highly to Jen Campbell's office.
I would agree with that, Robert.
It's politician thing, you know. So
All right.
Mandy?
Yes.
I just wanted to mention that I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we have the same kind of issue over on Locust and Evergreen, I believe, at least on one of those streets, where it's turning to a bypass of the major street. And that why do we keep getting these if they are not of the same configuration? There's a problem where the city is allowing too many blocks to go without some kind of interruption on a street like that, especially when it's a bypass. I think they should take that into account, and that they should look at installing stop signs on both of those streets, to be honest with you, to probably go maybe 3 to 4 blocks max without some kind of stoppage when it's a local street. Especially if it's the bypass and probably speeding's involved.
Yeah, and that's, you know, it is speeding. And the other issue, you know, it does amplify around Sunset as well, you know, with people coming to want to visit Sunset Cliffs. So thank you for that information. The Locust and Evergreen, I mean, we can add that to our list and address that at a future meeting. Paul.
So what's the ultimate goal here that we need to do to take action?
Well, I'd like to make a motion to
So I'd like to, I've had a few thoughts I wanted to share before.
Sure, go ahead, Matt.
So I think we've thrown out a lot of good ideas here about, you know, things that could be done to the street. And it seems like every time that we have some recommendations that we bring before the full board, we get pushback for trying to make specific recommendations. I'm not sure that we need to avoid doing that, but do you think it would make sense in this letter? It sounds like, you know, we want to request the city do a study about, you know, traffic speeds and feasibility. So do you think the board would be more receptive if we phrase it or frame it rather as, hey, you know, there's a problem, you know, number one, here's the problem. And, this is a problem corroborated by, all these appended letters that, you have as like appendices, Mandy. And then number two, here's a list of possible ways that it could be solved. And then number three, kind of like we want to request the city does a study and figures out, maybe it's even none of these things we're requesting or suggesting, but, do something. How does that sound?
Yeah, I want to frame it as an option. I don't want to say put speed humps here, I want to say, hey, we've come, like you said, we've asked for a 4-way stop sign. It doesn't mean the policy. It doesn't appear that the city council member is interested in overriding that at this time. So in lieu of that, can the city consider, one, evaluating that street for a traffic study to identify the speeding issues and do a traffic count, and as well as see if it qualifies to potentially install speed humps as a possible mitigation, the advisory lane for to create the traffic calming, and then yeah, I think that's it. Those were the two. And then just in the letter, let them know that with the installation of these advisory bike lanes, that there would be no impact to parking. And I think that would.
Well, no, we don't need to tell the city that. Their office should know that and understand it. That would be more to just explain it to people who aren't familiar with the advisory.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I would want to say, we might even add, things like the bulb outs or possibly even something like diverters. Diverters, I don't know how that would be popular, and I might, defer to Dan here if he can speak on behalf of his neighbors. But, actual diverters, this was something I saw a lot in the Bay Area when I lived up in Oakland. Berkeley would have it on some of their like bike boulevards per se, where you have diverters that force you into a right turn. Like where you can't drive through except, emergency vehicles are given some dispensation for it. I don't know that that's actually the right kind of mitigation here, but if we're just, throwing out ideas in a list for the city to consider, I might propose adding that.
The only thing with diverters, we did have a conversation with OB Planning Board. Nicole, remember the diverter that they were wanting to do at Bacon and Newport? And that seemed to not be well received by community members. I'm definitely, if we're throwing out options, and just saying, hey, these are some of the things that you could do to improve the area. If Dan feels like there is no real, issue with it, yeah, let's add it. Let's add it as an item to that as well.
I think it doesn't hurt to add those things as Matt is mentioning, because at the end of the day, we're not going to be the deciding party that decides what goes there exactly, as we've seen in the past with a lot of our traffic suggestions to the city. We suggest one thing and something else happens. So it just depends, upon the engineer reviewing that area at the end of the day, and his suggestion prevails over anything we suggest. So I think having more options like Matt recommends is I think a winning suggestion for the board purposes of approval.
Okay. I agree, so that we don't have to come back and say, oh, well, what about this mitigation or whatever? Let's just throw it all at them so that there's an opportunity for them to use their discretion to decide which of those may be more appropriate for installation. I agree with that. So I've got diverters. We have striping and installation of advisory lanes. We have curb bulb out extensions at the intersections to promote the visibility of the pedestrian, and to request a traffic evaluation and speed study to evaluate the traffic in that area, and to potentially install speed humps along that stretch of Froud. And then just leave it to the city to determine how many, and where they would want to place them. I'm thinking, would that still be within that same stretch? We want to keep it along that stretch of from Froud, from Newport to Voltaire, and leave it at that? Or do we want to request it for all of Froud? That's my final thought with this request. And I can pull up a map to share as well.
Mandy, my hand's up and I'll just comment.
Oh, sorry about that, Nicole. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay. I do actually know that people down in Sunset Cliffs area are having problems on Froud as well with this traffic issue and stop signs. And so stop signs should be on that list as well, because that's one of it. But I actually believe the whole corridor.
Okay.
Because it's a fast corridor, like you say, it's cut through. And thank you, Matt, for bringing up diverters, because those can be super beneficial, because really it's about, like, we don't want people just cutting through the neighborhoods to go to drop off kids at school. So, or to go see the sunset or whatever it is, right? So I would just like to say that the way Matt proposed a letter is really key, right on. And so I hope we can motion those recommendations, that kind of letter, to the full board.
Okay. So you made the motion, Nicole?
I can make the motion.
Oh,
and
no,
put it
I'm
in
sorry.
the
I
corridor.
didn't hear.
Yeah.
Okay, and then again, and really quick, the Froud corridor, it's Voltaire to Sunset Cliffs.
It is.
All right. All right, I'll second that motion. Is there any discussion?
Mandy, I had just a question. This is Dan. One more
Hi,
time,
Dan.
last time, sorry.
No worries.
Has anyone ever just gone strictly from the policy? Who's here? Has everyone ever just, because if you just look at the policy, which the city puts out, it just says if the city says no, you go to your council member and have them request one. And if their council member requests one, and I mean, a stop sign seems like a pretty easy, just drill a hole in the ground, paint the thing, put it in. I mean, they put them in within a day, I'm guessing, but it seems like if we just say this, our planning boards request the stop sign, I thought that in general that was kind of like the easiest option, but it seems this is kind of like a shotgun approach of everything. I know that's good too, puts the ball in their court, but if you go just directly to the policy and the planning boards to tell the council member, this is what our planning boards want, and then the council member says, this is what it seems like. It just seems pretty direct to me in the policy of what needs to be done.
Yes, and that was the intent of that letter, was to bring it to her attention. She's aware of how to override that. That was provided to us. So it's really just
it just seems like if we haven't got a response yet from that, right? We haven't got that. Seems like, hey, Jane Campbell, they said no, and we're still, this is what we want.
Yes,
and
I've also
at some point say no, and then we could say, okay, here's a shotgun approach. These are other great options for this, but it seems like she hasn't said no, that we don't want a stop sign right there. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to ask for a stop sign, even though 12 residents have sent letters saying that this is a good idea. But
it's not easy, and let me just tell you why, Dan. Because normally we have been suggesting over the years tons and tons and tons of safety precautions over the years, and we don't get them all approved. And a lot of times they don't even pay attention or listen until something deathly happens in that area. And so with that is, policy all day long, but at the end of the day, Jen Campbell won't respond to majority of our suggestions. We've had to go above and beyond to invite this committee ourselves over the years, invite her representatives in the past, and also just straight to the source of our district engineer and push him to change a lot of the policies and provide immediate attention to some of the areas that we've now later years have fixed. But it's not easy as you think with policy and all that good stuff, and going direct to the source. That never ever really works at all in my experience of being on the Traffic and Transportation Committee for at least 3-4 years.
Okay, yeah, I just wasn't familiar. So I just didn't. That's why I asked if anyone has experience with that. If they just say no, or if they don't respond at all, which seems kind of, I mean, if they don't respond at all, it's kind of a slap in the face to the planning board. What's the point of a planning board? But okay, that was my question. Sorry.
That's why prioritizing like something like this, Mandy, as our chair of this committee, prioritizing a list every month that says, hey, we've moved this to the top of our list. Can you get to this? and really staying on them with our needs and concerns monthly on, you know, hey, thanks for fixing this, but we need this fixed now. And staying on top of them constantly with our top 3, I would say top 3, 4 issues in our community. So we hold them accountable, so we know that we're watching and that the needs of these safety issues, you know, are concerning and need immediate attention ASAP.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
Dan, Margaret's right. I mean, some of the opinions stated are shared or similar experiences are being experienced by several different community stakeholders. And so the purpose of here is, you know, we do care. We're here. We're all about traffic, and we want to find that solution for you because we do care about our community. And so we've got some good ideas here. You know, to move this forward. There is a motion on the floor. If there's no other discussion, I'd like to take a vote of that. All right, so all in favor, raise your hand or don't.
Aye. Sorry, you can't see
All
me.
right. And Margaret, are you yes?
Yes.
All right. And Paul, did you say yes? Paul Grimes? Paul? Paul?
Check chat, Mandy, because I'm driving and you may have.
Yeah, yeah, I don't see that. Okay, well, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's potentially 7-0. But I'll just double check with Paul to figure out that vote count because he seems to be having technical issues. I don't see anything in the chat. Matt, yes, I agree. We should add Dan's concerns in the letter. I think that would be helpful because those are valid concerns.
Yeah, to just frame, you know, exactly what he was just saying, like, hey, you know, we've asked for this stop sign, whatever happened to that? And yeah, I'd rather us move forward with an additional letter rather than trying to wait on just the one thing, because that's already, you know, kind of out there. We can still keep pushing on that. In this letter, we can push on it too, because it may come down to, you know, what I think Dan is really advocating for. It makes sense in this, you know, part of the corridor, but now one of our letters expanded to a larger corridor than what Dan was initially coming to, if that makes sense, and hopefully does justice to Dan's concerns, because I'm, you know, really grateful he's here, and, you know, for all the energy he's put in so far. It's very commendable. So thank you, Dan.
All right. Well, I don't know what happened with Paul, so I'm gonna just do 6-0, and then I'll wait to hear back from Paul. It'll potentially be 7 to. Oh, there you are. Hi, Paul. Was that a yes? Okay. All right. So it's 7-0. It's unanimous. We'll have a letter created to hear by the end of the week that I'll send off to the entire subcommittee just for review. And then I'll attach all of the testimony and the affidavits to that letter. And then we'll also reference the original request that was made back in February as well. So I do appreciate everyone's input on this. All right, we got one down. We got several more to go. Okay, Dan, I will be in touch with you, and you're more than welcome to share, to stay for the meeting, but if you've got to get going, I completely understand. I thank you for your time and your participation. Your neighbors are very lucky to have you as their friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for all your hard work. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll be in touch. Thank you, Dan. All right, going back to the agenda, the next item we have is, we swapped it. Okay, the letter requesting safe pedestrian facilities on Catalina and Santa Barbara at Hill Street. This is the area that's up on Catalina, right before you hit Jensen's. And that area, it's kind of a design, like a K design. So it's an odd design, but there's been a lot of near misses and that area is a concern. So I'd like to open up the discussion about this. This is one of our top priority items. I know that several of us voted to have this prioritized because of the known issues at this location. So let's open up the discussion and see what we'd like to do to improve that area for our community.
Mandy,
Cool.
I'm just going to jump in there and just highlight that it's not just really pedestrians, it's vehicle traffic.
Mhm.
Super dangerous vehicle traffic. So we have to address both, not just pedestrians.
Okay. Sorry if I was just speaking to the pedestrian, but
No,
yes,
that's
a
okay.
holistic approach, obviously.
Yeah, a safe intersection. And I don't actually have any answers for it except for like a roundabout.
Mm.
But being that we don't want to ever recommend something serious, maybe we just need to address it as a serious corridor that needs evaluation and traffic calming.
Okay. Yeah, this area has been identified. What are some of the near misses? Is it when they are heading up the hill or down? Or is there confusion when people are coming at that, at the intersection of who gets to go first and
Yeah,
And I
Hills-
think Paul has a lot of good suggestions that he already emailed us before.
oh yes, I forgot
And
about
then
that. Yes.
in our email, and then it's mostly like traffic making the left from Hill Street or the other street
You're
to
right.
Catalina. Yeah, but he has a
Thank
lot
you
of good
so
suggestions.
much for that. Let me pull that up for everyone. Thank you. Paul did provide that. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah, going up Hill Street in Santa Barbara and they hit that stop sign and then they just kind of jet out. And
A lot of the traffic is, I think most of the people coming off Santa Barbara are not making a left onto Catalina, but they have to zigzag and go behind the people that are coming up from Hill Street. And then they mostly are going down, either going to go down Talbot or going south on Catalina. And it's got Santa Barbara's a fairly large street and it has a lot of people coming down it. So, something like a cul-de-sac there or maybe a right turn. I think a right turn only might not work. It would force traffic through the neighborhood if we did that. Or if the city did that. I don't think a traffic circle is going to work there because it's very odd intersection and there's no street on the other side. There's two coming in on one side and none on the other side. And the volume difference between Catalina and the other two streets is just massive, especially with the lab traffic or whatever you want to call it coming in at different hours of the day, including noon when they go out for lunch, and school traffic and all that. It's very difficult. I travel it all the time, and my wife will refuse to make a left up there, except maybe when she knows there's not a lot of traffic. At times I've felt like you got to wait too long to go, or you got to gun it to get out there, or you're constantly looking to make sure that you're looking at three different places to make sure you got an option to get through. It's a tough deal. I really don't know what we can do.
the one thing I noticed when they painted those stripes about, keep the intersection clear, a lot of people stop because they're not really sure what that means, if it's a stop sign or what. But I see people stop and they hesitate, and then people start running through the stop signs on Hill Street in Santa Barbara, and then that's where these, a lot of potential accidents could happen, and they do.
Okay.
I believe in my own that the no blocking is confused by some people, but I think it's really helped. That we have these in a number of places. Coming up Catalina by the Catalina Lounge, they've installed it where Formosa starts as well to allow cross traffic to go. There are times when you can make a left from Hill only because the street is not blocked with traffic coming through.
Right, and it does slow people down seeing the stripes.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but from my recollection, you have to kind of like scoot up more almost into the traffic to make your left coming from Hill or Santa Barbara to go make that left turn. you know, almost intrusive to the traffic that's going the opposite way than you're trying to go. So I have no solution, but that's just my input.
No, it's a mess there, yeah.
So again, back to that conversation, you know, this is a pretty intense, I mean, as far as the possibilities, there's quite a few. The thought of identifying, you know, and letting the city know of the experience that's being had there, the short misses, and then just ask them to review that area, you know, conduct a traffic and speed study to evaluate the area and install whatever appropriate traffic calming, you know, or, you know, traffic safety mitigations that they deem appropriate. Sorry, I did share the screen with all of the thoughts on the improvement that Paul had shared. I know it's a lot of information, but I do appreciate that. You know, what is the thought of installing bike lanes up there on Catalina? A lot of cyclists, you know, Cameron works up at Third Fleet, and whenever we go up there, there's a lot of cyclists that like to bike into Cabrillo. You know, I'm just thinking for traffic calming, you know.
It won't solve our problem. that we're
Yeah.
having. So I would just, like you said, and we don't have the solution, and we shouldn't recommend a solution. We need to
Okay.
highlight as a priority for the community, and if we could actually get some personal stories. I was just a witness and almost involved in one that was a really near miss that I thought the car was going to fling at me. So, you know, there's some, if we could get some personal stories, but if not, I think we should just identify it as a full board.
Okay, so we're going to request, the thought is to request the city to conduct a traffic study. Conduct traffic study and
I'm just
evaluate.
leery of a traffic study, like, yeah.
Or
okay,
just,
go ahead.
or should we even say that? I just, you know, I know that's kind of, just like the speed humps, it's part of the process for the installation. It's part of the checklist for the city. So really just an evaluation of that area and to, you know, to install whatever appropriate traffic safety mitigations they deem appropriate to resolve the issues with the community.
Make
So-
it a safe area. Yes.
Yes. So
agree
you
with
just
that.
want me to remove the request for a traffic study?
No, you can leave it in. It's either or. Does anybody have any discussion? I'm not necessarily making a motion at the moment, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are
I mean,
just some things.
I concur with both you guys. I just don't know how we're gonna litigate or let them know that it's a very concerning, we don't even have any suggestions. Like, what are
I
we
don't
gonna do
think
for
asking
this?
for traffic mitigation requires a letter.
So what do we need to do then?
You know, I can reach out to Gary and Tom Landry and just ask them to evaluate the area potentially. And then see
I
if we
would
can-
start with that.
yeah, and then we can come back and see what their findings are. And then maybe they can identify appropriate traffic safety issues. And then we can bring it as how about we just do it in tandem? I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Not at all.
Yeah. I'd like to make it a formal request because the thing is I can submit this request. It's still a dangerous issue. We've identified it as a top concern for our traffic safety committee. And so I'd like to make that official request so that we have reference that we can refer to in the future to advocate for that area. I know that it may not be necessary, but
I will agree with that, Mandy, because the city is actually, like, the departments are actually figuring out what to budget for 2022, 23. So they're already figuring that out. So they need that, this input right now is kind of actually important and critical.
And I concur also.
Okay. So
How hard would it be to get police reports?
That would be good. That's not too hard. We could just go down and ask.
I
for
mean,
certain-
yeah,
Well-
and I think talk to the fire station there too. I'm sure they have a lot of stories to corroborate it.
Oh, I'm sure.
you know what? That's is that 20 or 22 up there?
22.
22. I know the captain. Let me reach out and ask if he knows. That's a good idea.
Yeah, the fact that the fire station is there probably may not allow some kind of things that they might be able to put in. And in
That's
fact, maybe.
true.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think coming back to,
Yeah, so,
making specific requests, maybe, leave it up to the city to determine what's
Yeah.
appropriate, especially with that fire station and its proximity to that location. I agree.
I think the do not block thing possibly had something to do with the fire station that may have decided them. In fact, if you go down and look at the 20, which is down by Home Depot, I believe they have a do not block in front of the fire station itself. And there's, sometimes traffic backing up there, but not very often.
Okay. I'll put that for an action item. That could be some new information that we add to our request. If I get it in time, before I submit the draft to you as a subcommittee. So I'll follow up on that tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get some information if we do approve this motion to add it to the letter, to just, educate the community of that, or let them know of, yeah, I just think it would strengthen our case, if they have the incident reports of the traffic safety accidents at that location.
Mandy, I can tomorrow down to, I think it's Western Division Police Department. If they're open, I don't know what their schedule is this week because of the, I know they're closed on Thursday, Friday, so hopefully they're open tomorrow. But I can check and see if they'll give us just a generalized, like Robert was suggesting, like incident reports that are happening over there in that intersection. Because obviously they can't give personal information, but they do give things with it blocked out, like blacked out information. So maybe I can see.
Another thing is, remember the last PCPB board meeting, he was there giving an input, and he said that the crimemapping.com, that's just for neighborhood crime data. So,
But that doesn't show traffic.
yeah, it's not going to show the traffic. Never mind.
Right. Unless there was an actual accident or collision.
Yeah, and I
not-
can also ask when I make the request to this, to Gary, I can ask if there's some information that he can provide. Okay. All right, all good things. Any other, I'm gonna stop the screen sharing. Any other discussion at this time? All right, well, I'm gonna make a motion to request a letter be sent to the city to evaluate, to conduct, request a traffic study. Oh, hold on. Excuse me. To request the city to study and evaluate the intersection at Catalina and Santa Barbara and Hill, and to install the appropriate traffic safety mitigations as deemed appropriate. And then it'll be up to the city to make that call.
I'll second that, Mandy.
All right, thank you, Tina. All right, and we can go for discussion since there's a motion on the floor. Paul?
I don't think I'm necessarily wanting to sign up to something that says you do whatever you want without us even knowing what you're considering.
I guess I was a little bit more flippant in that, just again, that they would install and, if they're evaluating the area, we're saying that they're the traffic engineers and we want to give it up to them to let's evaluate this intersection And then if appropriate, to install the appropriate traffic safety mitigations to, to increase the safety of that area. Do we want to be specific with what we're requesting for possible solutions?
Come back to us and explain what their concerns are, and maybe even show up to one of our meetings and discuss it. I think it's a fairly important intersection with very odd, with weird traffic and weird configuration. And if they come in and they say they need a traffic light, are we okay with that? Or if they need to put a roundabout in there, are we okay with that? Or are we okay with them making Santa Barbara a cul-de-sac at that point? Are we okay with that? I don't think I'm okay with maybe any of those.
You know what? That's a good idea. Paul, you bring up a great point. How about, hold up. We're going to request that, and then and ask them, instead of to install, ask them to return to the board to let us know what possible traffic safety mitigations could be installed in that area to address those issues, and then allow us to get community input, and then approve them based on what they provide us.
Yeah, based on their proposals to us.
Yeah, based on their proposals. So I like that. So instead of it's going to be a request to the city to conduct. Are we going to do we were going to do a traffic study, correct? Or
I think
no?
it goes now with the safety study. I mean, they're going to have to do something. They're going to do it anyways.
Yeah, so identified intersection is dangerous. Request the city to conduct a study and evaluate the intersection at Catalina and Santa Barbara and Hill, and to provide the PCPB with their traffic safety mitigation recommendations
Or proposals.
or mitigation proposals. And to provide the PCPB with their traffic safety mitigation proposals to review and get community input. I guess how do we wrap that up?
Paul, what do you want to say? You're on mute, Paul.
We don't want to give them an open check and then do something that the community doesn't want. And then we're standing there going like, oh, we said it was okay no matter what they did. So I think they need to come back to us, and we'll try to get community approval, or maybe even community disapproval, depending on what it is.
Okay, so we're going to request the city to study and evaluate the intersection of Santa Barbara Hill at Catalina Street, and to provide the PCPB with their traffic safety mitigation proposals, and to allow the Peninsula Community Planning Board the opportunity to request community input and vote on on whatever is approved from the community.
Can we change the word whatever?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm exhausted.
I'm tired too.
I'm like hitting a wall now.
Gonna be
I
like, you know what,
apologize. Yeah,
whatever.
take the whatever out part, but yes. So there was a motion on the floor, so it's modified. So should I just restart the motion as, with the new, and then whoever, all right. So I make that motion to request the study and evaluate the area, and then have the city come back to us with their recommendations so that we can reach out to the community and get their inputs and then make a decision on what we would like to see installed in that intersection.
I second the corrected motion, the updated motion.
Thank you, Tina. And all in favor?
Aye.
All right. And then Margaret left, so 6-0. All right. Okay, passed. All right, thank you, everyone. All right, moving on to our next agenda item. We have review the intersection of Nimitz and West Point Loma Boulevard and the connecting corridors to request traffic calming measures and or a traffic study of the area. So Matt had brought this to become an action item. And I think it is of concern. About a month ago, or really about 2 months ago, there was a skateboarder who was struck and killed. And if you were trying to get your kids to school that morning, it was crazy. The traffic was backed up. It took me an hour to get back home from Ocean Beach Elementary. And they start at 7:45. And so it was something that Matt wanted to bring to the attention of the board and discuss. So Matt, you have the floor. You can go ahead.
Yeah, oh, I'm getting some feedback. Okay, it's gone. So thanks for that, Mandy. Yeah, in the email I'd sent around, there were two specific instances. There's that skateboarder who died a few days after his injuries sustained at the intersection. And then there was also a bicyclist that was struck, who was actually part of a group of cyclists, and car just like pulled out and, knocked him over, ended up breaking his leg. And I think this also ties in then with who was it? Margaret forwarded the board that comment from the manager of La Playa Books earlier today, if y'all had a chance to see it in your email. There was a concern between West Point Loma Boulevard and Voltaire on Nimitz. So I think all of these are actually kind of related issues. And I'm not exactly sure what the solution is. That's why I wanted to bring it up before the board. I believe a couple of years ago, we talked about trying to commission a speed study in this corridor because there was concern about how fast motorists are going. And I think kind of off the 85th percentile rule, you probably don't actually want a speed study commissioned here because it might end up increasing the speed limit if it finds that, 85% of the cars are, going above the posted limit. Now that we have a new law signed into, a new bill signed into law that does away with the 85th percentile rule, I'm not sure if it comes online now or if it comes online in the start of the next calendar year, but I think it's perhaps time to revisit this. It might be time to try to request a revised speed study in this corridor. Just so that I want to, kind of turn it over to the board, get feedback. It's kind of the best idea I have at the moment.
I think, taking your lead, Matt, being that you're on that road actively, it's cycling. I mean, we drive that area and that area is of concern because of the speeds. And there are some issues there that need to be addressed. And I did see that email. Did everyone get that email from Margaret? Yeah, what would you like to make it for a recommendation, Matt?
Oh, sorry, maybe my connection seems really spotty this evening.
It's
I
the
was-
flight. It's a plane's going over.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the best idea I've come up with is maybe we revisit the speed study that we've been kind of discouraged from requesting previously. Now that the 85th percentile rule is being removed from, how we make speed limit considerations, I think we should get a study in there so that if the city isn't aware of it, it now has to be aware of what drivers' behavior is there. And I think based on that, I mean, I can think of some things that would be nice. Like I would love to see a protected bicycle lane there. Nicole might be able to remind me. I feel like this may be on someone's radar. There's they want to do a project there, but it might take something like speed study data to help motivate. If we get that data, we might be able to help push it forward faster. So that's kind of what I have at the moment.
Okay, and then the outcome of the traffic study is again to what would that determine? Again, I know that they're removing the 85% rule. Are we just going to leave it open-ended for them to? Sorry if I missed something.
No, I mean, I don't have any specific recommendations at the moment. Long-term, I'd love to see protected bike lanes, but Nicole, do you know what's in the works for that corridor? Is it on someone's radar already? You're on mute.
You're on mute.
So Nimitz is actually being resurfaced all the way to West Point Loma. So we're going to get a fairly decent crosswalk there, I believe, and some brighter green paint to designate some bike lanes and probably some flex posts along there all the way up to West Point Loma. Like north, I can't find solutions yet, but really it's about, when you think about it, it's advocating for that West Point Loma section that's not done yet. And it's like, I helm the city on, multiple fronts about that West Point Loma. It's mind-boggling that it's still not complete. We are still waiting. They did a $30 million commercial paper for all the resurfacing projects. And I caught active transportation and infrastructure is tomorrow. So if I would actually make a recommendation, it'd be go and inquire there and say, why is this not getting done? But they showed Peninsula projects as a number. I never verified what projects come under there. I've asked a couple times. Everett is keeping an eye out for it. He knows it's hot on the radar. Most of the city, a lot of them know it's on the radar. I'm hoping it's part of the commercial paper. I can't tell you if it is or not. I would assume it is. So getting that connection will definitely help that. I think we will get some better infrastructure once those kind of things happened. I do know also that, city was actually kind of very proud of their ADA improvements right there at that intersection, and then going up into the island and the crosswalk area. So they feel like they've made improvements. So
I do want to thank you, Nicole, for that, but I would like to come back to the bike lanes. Are protected bike lanes class 4 or class 2?
Class 4.
Class 4.
On West Point Loma to the east.
And the other reason why I'm thinking that we do need to request that, because I don't know if you all are aware, there's a massive capital improvement project going on for Broadfield and Dusty Roads. And isn't part of that, I believe part of that is something for bike facilities. Is that correct, Nicole? Or and so if that's the case, the proximity and the placement of that park, we're going to need to connect that and have that available. So,
well, and just to final, like what Matt was asking about on the big picture vision, it is a Sandag EAP project, early action project. It's number 49, 48 on the list. They are reprioritizing them. Sandag is reprioritizing the list in December and having some conversations. And so, we can continue to advocate, but it's going to be based on criteria, equity, safety, and those kind of things. So we can keep you updated on that. It is definitely keeps raising up on the agenda, and I think Matt for continuing to bring it.
So
I think we, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, kind of based on what Nicole's saying, you know, so my original concern was this intersection of Nimitz and West Point Loma. Then I started bringing up in tandem with the, you know, letter of concern from community we got today, the corridor of Nimitz, kind of from West Point Loma up to Voltaire. And then Nicole's kind of pointing out what's going on West Point Loma. So this, you know, it seems like this is kind of two issues that it's morphed into. And I think the solution to these two issues, it's two separate solutions, because one, we already have a plan. The city already has a plan for cycling improvements on West Point Loma Boulevard. And then it's, you know, at this point, holding them accountable and trying to push that forward. Whereas Nimitz, I think that's maybe where the speed study would come in. And so I guess my question then to the board is that something that we need the board to request, or is it the thing that, like, you know, I could go in to get it done and ask the city to come in and do it? What's the best way to have that happen?
You can request it. It doesn't mean that it will be done. And then there's some new information that we found out. Nicole and I were part of the OB Planning Board, Traffic and Transportation, and Tracy, the chair there, mentioned that with requests for traffic studies, if you make that request within they only do them every 3 years. And so if there's a duplicate request for a traffic study in the same area, they will not conduct another traffic study because they already have that information, or, you know, for that area. And so that's something new. I think just like the other request, you know, I could add that as an action item, you know, to request the evaluation or a traffic study of Nimitz, the Nimitz corridor from them. But I do feel like maybe the letter should be that, along with installing class 4 protected bike lanes through that area, as well as requesting the completion of the West Point Loma bike lanes to connect those together. And it would encourage, you know, it would you know, it would make that connection to the entire city network. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could definitely support all of those things if we think as a board or as a committee, it makes the most sense to wrap them into one letter. I would support that.
Well, we did vote on it earlier when we were, you know, on our traffic spreadsheet, when we ranked them. That was, I believe, the top priority. And I know Nicole was trying to get more information and try to see if there could be other potential ways to address it. But I think we need to make an official request to ask them for the completion of that. Am I correct in that, Nicole, when we were talking about that a few months?
Yeah, and so yes, I agree that, yeah, let's ask them, keep West Point Loma on the radar, get that one done, right? And like you say, it's going to be a completed connected network. So we're going to get Nimitz all the way up to, all the way to West Point Loma. So we're pretty good there. So maybe we take the same approach we did on Scott Street and ask for a quick build from Nimitz are we trying, I mean, I personally am not for a traffic speed study on Nimitz, because I feel like this infrastructure that we're going to get here in the next, I'd say 6 months, if I'm optimistic, and I want to be like, woo, woo, yay, we can get it, right? Because resurfacing on Nimitz is happening in the next couple months, I'd say. And then West Point Loma should happen by the end of the year, or by the end of the next fiscal year. So it's really that Nimitz to the freeway, right? And coming off the freeway, that's where you get high speeds. It's the freeway. So look at it in all that space, you know, the best thing we can ask is for a quick build to get us that finished corridor of where the speed is actually the dangerous part. So like, I was thinking of like a bike box at that Nimitz, coming south on Nimitz to West Point Loma, a bike box, but that didn't fit in this resurfacing effort. but like that is on the other side. So maybe we need to just look at that section over there, since we basically have the other two. Just a suggestion.
So from the Nimitz, we'd want them, if we were wanting them to evaluate, it would be from West Point Loma Boulevard, south of West Point Loma Boulevard and up, or do you want to go further north and then have them?
I want to go
evaluate?
north to
Okay.
the freeway. And now you're just reminding me that I did sit on Caltrans Bicycle Advisory Committee today, and they are doing their reprioritization of all their projects. And Nimitz and I has always been a hot corridor for Caltrans and me and conversations there. So, you know, we're just raising this up to really have the need. And so, yeah. Thanks.
Okay. All right, so the Nimitz Corridor, and we want them to go all the way to the 8 to evaluate that. Okay.
I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but I think that's actually where the speeds are being high.
I mean, the speeds are high all the way through the Nimitz corridor, like.
Correct, but we're gonna get flex posts and resurfacing and green paint. And we've really made some recommendations from Nimitz to actually Evergreen or to Oliphant. So it's almost 2 miles. So we've done our due diligence there until Sandag big project comes in.
Okay.
Reducing speeds, you know, we could maybe tackle that in the new year if we saw that the speeds were, and once the law was in place, then maybe we tackle the speeds if we find that that's still an issue. But I'm hoping as we continue to shrink their lanes and get more green paint and more visibility out there, that it becomes safer.
Hey,
Okay.
Nicole, to ask you, oh, sorry, go ahead, Matt. Okay, now can you remind me what a bike box is?
The bike box is kind of like, so
Sorry
think of
for my-
Nimitz when you're kind of coming up off, it's a space for bikers to kind of get in front of the vehicles to establish that they have that space to go. To me, I look at it as if you create a bike box at Nimitz and West Point Loma, when I'm coming off the freeway and I want to make a right turn on West Point Loma, I want to actually leave an open space for traffic to go through there. So a bike box can actually create a space for bikes to get in front of the cars, so they get out of the way, so cars could actually make a right if we want to allow free right. That's a debatable question in itself.
Okay.
But
all
bike
right.
box just gives that awareness, guidance, a safer positioning for bikers. And maybe Matt, if I missed something there.
Thanks for the clarification.
You can see them up on University Avenue at 6th Avenue, getting onto the freeway right there.
So based on what Nicole was saying, if we want to, you know, put forth a recommendation for a letter, would it make sense to then kind of put it as, you know, almost 3 parts, like, hey, follow through on West Point Loma Boulevard completion, follow through on Nimitz from West Point Loma up to Voltaire or Oliphant, I forget where, but yeah, follow through on that corridor. And now additionally, you know, fix this other corridor and make it safer. Is that basically the gist of it?
Additionally, but more importantly, as an important, like now with those type of improvements, can have connectivity if we create connectivity all the way to, we'll still have fast traffic on that freeway, and we need to get us through those connections and connect our communities. And the most dangerous part is there. And really, honestly, throw it into Caltrans, throw a separate letter to Caltrans, because they're listening and they're listening to the community and they want community input. So raise this one up if you can.
Yeah, we can add that to the distribution letter when Fred, you know, if it gets approved or whatever gets approved, so that they can be one of the recipients, and Sandag as well.
Right. Right. Yes.
Yeah, I like that, but I just want clarification. So are we going to go from Evergreen, Oliphant? I thought we were going to go all the way to the 8.
Matt was just, yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
So if I understand what Nicole was saying, basically the city already has plans through resurfacing to treat it from, I think, West Point Loma Boulevard to south to Oliphant.
Okay, the city already has plans. Okay.
And so just like on West Point Loma Boulevard, how they've neglected finishing the cycle track for 2 years, we want to just, you know, say, hey, make sure you follow through on this.
Okay.
So that would, you know, be for what, I guess I can propose, you know, I can make a motion to, you know, draft this letter. I'll be happy to take this on and circulate the draft later. But the main point would be, you know, number one, follow through on West Point Loma. Number two, follow through on, you know, Nimitz from West Point Loma to Oliphant. And then number three, we need to make this last section safer with protected bike infrastructure to help really connect this network, because it'll help connect it to like the bike path and to Mission Bay.
Yeah, I'll second that motion. You know, the only other thing, I don't know if we need to be specific, and the only reason I bring this up is, you know, when people make that left turn, you know, we've talked about this in the OB planning board, when they make that left turn from the 8 and then, you know, the far left lane, you go, and that goes into the Point Loma area, and that eventually becomes a 2-lane. And then there's a 3rd lane, that right lane that's making the left can go into the OB planning, the OB community. When you make that right, that split between, it kind of becomes 3 lanes, but there's no delineation or striping or like for that lane for OB. Could we add something to that extent to request that they put some form of striping to delineate those lanes? Because I feel like that would also help educate the drivers where they need to go, and it would improve safety of the cyclists and people navigating that area.
Yeah, I think that's a good concrete thing we could add. And this then makes me think, you know, if we can get board approval for this letter, we should probably kick it over to OB, see if they would sign on as well.
Say that one more time, Matt. I'm sorry, I got interrupted.
Just, you know, kind of putting it as like a, you know, mental checklist. If board approves this letter, we should pass it over to OB and see if they would support, if their planning group would support it as well.
Yeah, we can do that as well. And you know, with previous experiences, and we've had discussion in the OB planning board, I've spoken with Tracy and Andrea, you know, while we want to mirror things, we're just going to each put our own individual recommendations and not try to mirror and you know, keep them identical, because, you know, the more attention and more advocacy from each individual planning groups, I feel like it just gives more options for the city. So yes, I will keep them aware of that request, because it is a shared intersection for sure.
I'll just add, sign-ons are collaborative, all in is really important and supportive. So, you know, I can see different approaches on some things, but getting sign-on is not a bad idea.
Yeah, we can definitely bring that and let them aware of our request. All right, so Matt made the motion. I seconded it. We made a little friendly amendment to the lane designation over there to improve the safety. Is there any other inputs? If not, let's go ahead and take a vote. All right, all in favor? All right, 6-0, unanimous. It passes. And then Matt, we'll work together, and I'll work on the other letters as well. I'll probably need your help, Matt, you know, with any, you know, language and things like that. So we'll be sure to get those all out to the subcommittee for review. Okay. Going back, let me just see where we're at next. Okay. We are at, okay. Margaret brought this item. This is to review the intersection of Rosecrans and Dickens to request traffic calming measures or a traffic study of the area. She's not here at the meeting, so I kind of don't, she'd sent me, I don't know, on her Facebook, she had posted the aftermath of a vehicle incident with a pedestrian. And there has been several issues with near misses and issues along that area. The area that she sent that this happened was right over by Sushi Lounge along Rosecrans and Dickens. And you know, she brought this, I know we've talked about Rosecrans in general, so I don't know if we need to table this or if there's something that outside of a traffic study and, you know, and what we were talking about earlier, is there any thought to what type of mitigation or request we'd like to make for this area? And I can pull up a map too, to share of the area.
I mean, we've been talking about, you know, some of the stuff for Scott Street that honestly, I think could apply here as well. Like, you know, something like a protected crosswalk in terms of like a hawk signal. But I anticipate there being concern about that, you know, interfering with kind of motor vehicle flow.
Yeah, with the timing of the lights as well.
But yeah, I think, you know, this concern that Margaret forwarded us is a legitimate one. Like when I'm commuting home, leaving the base area, there is, you know, in the afternoon, some pretty heavy traffic flowing out of the naval base through that corridor. You know, like even just, you know, for me being on Rosecrans trying to turn left can be quite, you know, quite like harrowing during that time of day.
Should we, the thought is it something that we'd want to be specific just to that intersection? Or do we want to wait and pause and maybe address Rosecrans on a holistic level and then do the entire stretch from the entrance of the base all the way down Rosecrans, you know, as much as possible until it hits Midway? The Midway Planning Group, I don't know, what are your thoughts?
I don't see any difference between that intersection and any of the others in a row there between those two traffic lights. So I'm not quite sure what the concern is that we wouldn't have at the other intersections or the other parts of the street. You know, it's all 4-lane with a pocket in the middle lane where it's needed, which is every block. I don't know if, is there a, it doesn't look like there's a bike lane painted on the street at that point. Maybe there is now, but according to what I'm seeing here, it doesn't show one. But I don't know.
There's not at that point.
What is the issue that happened there that would be different than any other street along that stretch, I guess, would be my question.
It seems to be very similar to what's being, you know, the near misses. There was a pedestrian was struck. I think when they were, I don't know if they were making the left and they were trying to come across. Like I said, it's just a video, so I don't know what the before was. My thought is maybe, you know, we add it to, you know, we add that area of concern and then maybe we address it on a holistic level rather than just one portion of Rosecrans because of the issue with the timing and the level of traffic as well. And then, you know, back to what Matt was saying with the hawk light being installed. That's you know, it's a little pricier, so it might be something that we, you know, that's going to be, that's why I'm thinking maybe we look at it at a holistic level and then we can provide several options for several different locations along Rosecrans. I don't know. Thoughts?
Now, is the speed bump idea still on the radar over at Bessemer? I mean, not speed bump, roundabout. Are they still going to try? Is that still a consideration?
For which location?
This is down further. They were talking about doing roundabouts down there.
Is that where the residential is, closer to the base entrance? Right. Okay. I'm not aware of that. I could, you know, inquire about that.
Yeah, it was discussed a couple years ago at the board.
So there's a roundabout. What was the street, Robert?
Bessemer and Rosecrans.
Bessemer.
And then maybe maybe one by Kona Way or something they were discussing. I mean, I have reservations about it because of the speed and all the traffic from the Navy, but I don't know how it'll really work.
And then Nicole, I know, you know, with the military modal working group with Sandag, do you, I know those meetings, I don't know if they're still holding those meetings. Is there any update or intention to revamp that area to make it safer for pedestrians that you're aware of, Nicole?
So the military working group just met for the first time in like 6 months. It's not, that study basically probably got shelved somewhere, but Rosecrans still, you know, isn't, yeah, I can't say that that would be your answer right now.
Okay. Oh, hold on one second. Hold on one moment. Sorry about that. Hold on one second. Sorry, my husband was locked out. The house, sorry, story of our life.
Sorry, Cameron.
Yeah, sorry. Got distracted. Okay, so apologies. I'd like to table this item because I think hold on one second. Hold on one second. I'd like to table this and let's I'd like to look at it on a holistic level, and I don't know. Or do we, you know, request like what we just did with Nimitz, you know, and request a traffic study and evaluation, or do we want to be a little bit more specific with what we'd like to see there?
Rosecrans comes up all the time as a kind of like corridor of concern. I think it might be good to, you know, punt on this until we have time to maybe take the more holistic look and identify, you know, because this segment that we're looking at is one of several, and you know, it may be that we want to treat that one separately ultimately, but at the same time, you know, I think what Paul was bringing up, like, or maybe it was Robert, I'm sorry, I forget, but the concern was just brought up, you know, kind of like whatever it applies in this section probably applies to quite a few other intersections as well. So I think it might be worthwhile taking a little more time for that, especially as looking, you know, we're getting closer to 8 right now. That would be my recommendation.
I'll agree with that. I'll make a motion to table the item. And then we'll look at it at a future, we'll add that as an action item at a future meeting, because I'd like to, again, address that on a holistic level rather than just piecing apart Rosecrans. So yeah, who seconded that motion to table? Robert? All right. And then a vote at this time for approval. All right. And Nicole, what was your vote?
Sorry, I'm here. Aye.
Oh, aye. Okay, awesome. Motion to table. And then we want to address Rosecrans on a holistic level. So I'm thinking in the future, we can, from the base entry all the way along Rosecrans corridor, either to the midway boundary or to the I-8, we can make a request to the city and then bring, you know, look at it all together rather than just one individual intersection. All right, thank you, everyone. All right, so we're chugging along. All right, we have another informational item. One moment. And you asked me to switch this. Discussion about proposed 2-hour parking along Sunset Cliffs Boulevard and no parking in the early morning hours. This is a request that's being made to the city by local residents. This item, this informational item was brought to me by Delana Purcell. She is a member of our traffic transportation subcommittee as a community member, and I work with her on the Sunset Cliffs Natural Park Council. We're voting members of that board. And even before the pandemic, there's a lot of issues in the park. And recently the Coastal Commission approved the closure of the parking lot, the lower level parking lot that is off of Ladera. at night. And so either the police or a city maintenance worker comes and opens the gate in the morning and locks it up at night. Well, with that change, they have been experiencing more activity with regards to people parking. There's vanners that are coming and parking out in front of their homes, and they show up at all hours of the night. And so I met with Delana Purcell and her partner on Sunday, and I met with a community member that lives over off of Sunset Cliffs. His name is Glenn Balt. And he wanted us to bring a request to the city, and I'm going to make it an action item for December. So I'm just going to read some of my notes of what he'd like to see there. So okay. And then again, the VHO is not being enforced at this time. There is a pending lawsuit with the homeless advocacy group. That's just some information I wanted to share with you. But going through, what they would like to have proposed is the installation of more signage in the area that talks about the rules of the park, as well as that there's no overnight parking. And they'd like to create a time limits on the parking for that area to be, instead of not, all day, that it would be 4 to 6 hours. And they're also wanting to look at the end of Ladera, when it turns up, they'd like to increase the red striping along that corner, because it's so narrow that the traffic, like if a fire truck comes up Sunset Cliffs, he has to cross over the double yellow. And it's a kind of a blind corner. It's a real tight corner. So they're looking to, increase some signage that would, some safety signage, as well as, ask that there be a time limit established for the parking on the street from 4 to 6 hours, so that they don't have cars just showing up there and staying all day and hogging the views. Another thought is they are interested in potentially establishing a parking district of some sort. And Nicole, you and I will have to talk about that. But another thought is that they'd like to also get permit parking for the residents that are in that area. Most of the residents don't require street parking, but with the time, them wanting to make recommendations on limiting the time from all day, just a free-for-all, to 4 to 6 hours to encourage rotation. That, along with, no parking at night along those streets, they feel that that would help resolve some of the issues that they're experiencing. And I know there's a lot of different opinions about the neighborhood of Sunset Cliffs and their requests, but I sit on these boards, and the last several years, and especially after the pandemic hit, people lost their minds. And what happened in the park, we advocated for some of those changes to help protect the park. But like with any other situation, it's like once they resolve one issue, the issue kind of moved. And so I'm going to bring that as an action item at the next meeting and request, make some recommendations. And we're going to work with the Sunset Cliffs Natural Park Council and let them know that that meeting is going to be happening. And we are going to invite them, along with all the neighbors, to make recommendations of what they'd like to see at Sunset Cliffs in that neighborhood. So I just wanted to give you all an update on that. And then being that it's almost 8 o'clock, I'd like to table the, going over the spreadsheet and refining the remaining spreadsheet. Because we've already voted for what we're addressing, and we're still addressing those issues. So we've got plenty to do at this time. Is it okay if we not address the spreadsheet at tonight's meeting? All right, thank you. So I make a motion to table that item as well. Can I get a second? All right, Tina seconds it. All in favor? All right, raise your hand. Awesome. I want to give a shout out to Anna Birmingham. She is
Yes,
here,
Anna, thanks for being in.
and I want to thank you for showing up tonight to be a part of the traffic and transportation. So I hope you learned some stuff. And if you have any questions or want any follow-up, feel free to reach out to us, or even Nicole Burgess. Nicole's awesome. She's, our cyclist, our cycling advocate. So I do appreciate everyone's time tonight. Our next meeting will be held on the second Tuesday at December 14th, again via Zoom. And before I adjourn, are there any other items that anyone would like to discuss at this time?
No. I just want to say thank you, Anna. I know you're a high school student. You're ready to go to bed or finish your homework at least.
Right.
You wish to go to bed, but finish your homework. But thank you for hanging with us this whole evening.
Yes.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I mean, I run cross country, so I run a lot of these streets. So kind of interesting to see what goes behind all the actions that kind of make the streets safer and all that. So thank you for having me.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
As well, thank you for being here, and please share any ideas and suggestions you have along the way. Look forward to having you here more. Thank you.
All right. Well, it's 7:58 p.m. I'm adjourning this meeting. Everyone have a lovely evening.